I'm Rachel Merrick, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from Southeast Queensland in Australia. This month I am joining a great team of other demonstrators from all around the world in our global monthly video hop. This month we are using fun folds as our theme, and you're going to find lots of inspiration on all of the videos on ways to create cards that are interactive and just create a little bit more pizzazz and fun when giving a card to a friend or as a part of a gift. So this month my card is aimed at more beginners. If you want something that looks really good, uses up some DSP, that great pattern paper that we have, and we do have a new annual catalogue, so there's some great new products in here, and I have used in this month's card an old favourite that's returning, and that is the artistically stamped set. So just to give you a sneak peek, here is my card. It's a little bit blurred out. So this is a faux step card. So it folds flat, as you can see, but when it sits up on your desk or your table, it is a little stepped card. There's still plenty of room inside the card to write to your recipient, but just for a little bit of fun. And I actually haven't used DSP in this one. I have used stamping using Sunburst as well as my background stamp in here. So join me and all of my colleagues in such a fun video hop and create some of your own. Make sure you send some links for us and leave a little bit of feedback. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and have fun with it. Until next month, thank you. Today's card uses two of our returning stamps in the new annual catalogue. They are artistically inked, which has this beautiful distinctive cling stamp set that allows you to look like you have done watercolouring using your inks. And I'll show you the stamping techniques that I've used later on. I'm also using Rays of Light, one of my favourite background stamps. It kind of is a good substitute when you don't have a DSP or you would like to do just cardstock and ink stamping, which is what I am doing today. No DSP in sight, it's all just cardstock and ink. Of course, this one here has the matching die set, and I have used that today for my cutting out. So the colours that we have chosen for today is Orchid Oasis, Melon Mumbo, Granny Apple Green. So Orchid Oasis was our in colour for 2022 to 24, and then Melon Mumbo and Granny Apple Green are our stock standards that have not retired in the refresh. So really bright colours to make a fun card. This card is one of those centre step cards, but it is a bit of a cheat. So there's not a lot of cutting so much and folding so that you get the accurate measurements. This is kind of a cheat so that you can put it together with two folded pieces of cardstock to create your card. So the first cardstock, and I will put all of these measurements in a bit of a graphic at the end. So I've done them in centimetres because I'm in Australia. So this first one is 8 by 21, and it is scored in the portrait style at 10.5. So when I fold it, I get this really small little tent card that looks like that. I will be rubbing off my measurements, but I needed them for the video. Then we have a 14 by 20 centimetre card, and on the portrait again, I have scored at 3, 6, and 13. Now I'm going to make a mountain and a valley like so on this card, and then fold it so it folds in half. And I'll show you on the side what that looks like, and you'll get the idea very quickly of what our card will look like. So it's folded so it looks like this. I'll put it this way. It's a small step, so a small mountain and then a larger mountain. And then our tent card is going to sit above and be attached like so. So what that will do is once it is all glued together, will sit like so. So you've got a little step card there. So that is our basic faux center step card. And the elements that I have chosen for this one is I have stamped already the rays of light, and I have cut that one to 7 by 9.5, and then I've cut a mat on the Melon Mumbo plain cardstock in that 7.5 by 10. So that is actually going to fit on this card. Then I have 2 other pieces for my front section. So this section is the Orchid Oasis cardstock. It is 2.5 centimeters by 13.5 centimeters, and this one here, which goes in this center section in the Melon Mumbo, is 6.5 by 13.5. So all of those measurements probably mean nothing to you, but I will assemble the card so that you get an idea of how I'm going to put this together. So for, I've already pre-cut some of my elements as well. So I have used the Granny Apple Green to do some of the leaves. I'm going to shade these leaves with a sponge dauber to show you how you can get a dimensional feel with your Granny Apple Green. So I'm going to bring in a sponge dauber. I have a little container of these. Try to use one that's already got a bit of ink on it that is a similar colour. So I'm going to use my scrap paper on the back here. Open up my Granny Apple Green, and sponge daubers are tricky. They were one of our first. Before we had blending brushes, we did have sponge daubers. So we tap on there just like we would. I'm just on the side. I'm just going to tap off a little bit just to make sure I've got the right colour to begin with. And so here I am. Here's my white leaf element that comes with the die set. So I'm going to use my sponge dauber on my finger, and I'm just going to tap on the sides, and it's going to start adding colour. And I do it just on one side and build it up till I get right to the edge, but not quite. So let me see if you can see that. Whoops, here we are. So don't mind my inky fingers, but I do want a little bit of that white. So I'm going to continue with that on the same side. Just pop that one out of the way for the minute. And tap, tap, tap until I get almost to the edge. And again, with this one, I'm going to move from the top down. If you want it a little bit darker, just tap a bit more ink. It's always good to get it darker on the tips if you're doing leaves. Nice to kind of mimic nature. Now this one, I'm using my dauber on an angle just so that I don't get too much of that stem in it to begin with. And I can go back in. Now I'm going to use the sponge dauber, turn it around on my stem, but I'm just going to swipe it, and you will see that creates quite a darker amount of ink. I'm just going to move that one out of the way. Just move it backwards and forwards, and it does create quite a lot of ink on there. And the last one, I have to do it on a bit of an angle in there to get a bit more of that colour. So you do want the variations in there. It adds interest. And we're going to add a little bit of sparkle a bit later on to this one as well. So again, tapping. If you feel like you need it dark, maybe circles, or like I said, that rubbing. But you want some of that white, just a little bit on this one. Okay. Now, as you can see, I didn't cut the entire, is it like a big strand off leaves. I cut just a section, and then this leaf was on the edge of the cardstock. So that one's going to stick out from underneath. I also have the stamped leaves as well that I'm going to use. I did create this one, which I'm just going to stamp on my scrap paper. So I'm going to pop this one away now, and I'm going to bring in my other two colours. That's the Orchid Oasis and the Mullen Mumbo. So in my floral elements that I have already stamped, I have created like a two-tone. I'm going to show you how I did that again with a sponge door, but this time it's a pinky coloured one, and I used the larger floral watercolour look distinctive stamp for this one. So I'm going to bring in Orchid Oasis first. I'm going to move a few of these elements out of the way so they don't get ink on them. I'm just going to show you on the scrap paper how I did this, because obviously I've already done mine and made it easier for myself, so I wasn't off camera trying to struggle with my die cutting because I often do struggle. So for this one, I just literally tapped on my Orchid Oasis, tap tap until it looked all inked up. Then I got my pink and with my dauber on my finger, loaded it up, and then I just tapped in the middle. Now I am tapping in one corner when I go back in, because there is some of that ink that's being picked up, and if I tap it off here, you can see the colour that it's creating. So remove some of it. That's why you have scrap paper to begin with. Okay, and I have done some around some of the edges as well. My Mullen Mumbo is quite juicy. As you can see, there's lots of ink being used. Last one. Okay, so each time you do this, you're going to get a slightly different result, but you kind of can make multiples and have a lot of fun with it at the same time. So I'm going to stamp this one off onto here. Of course, you can do second generational stamping as well, and it works out just as well. Now the Orchid Oasis is quite dark, and that's it stamped. So you can see that I have filled in the center section, and I just brought my dauber back in, did not re-ink it much at all, and I just tapped in the center like that. Added a little bit more of the pink color, and of course, because this is plain paper, not cardstock, it hasn't quite come out the same, but you get the idea. You can play with colors, you can make a couple of different combinations, adding in 2 or 3 layers of colors as well. So that gives you that multicolored, which is what we get in nature, those floral elements. And also when you see a lot of watercolors, they do have multiple colors because they all kind of mix together. That's the great thing about using watercolors. I'm going to bring in this element here. This was the 6.5 by 13.5, and I'm going to use this stamp from the stamp set. So this is a great stamp. It gives like that blotted watercolor look. And let me show you what it looks like. I'll stamp off first, just using my Mullen Mumbo ink again, and I'll stamp onto here so you get an idea of what it looks like. Very pretty. This distinctive stamp set really gives you those different shades. So I'm going to use that, and I'm just going to stamp this all over as a background. So try to just ink it up. Fill up a lot of those sections, and it is great because you can overlap and it's not going to matter because it just looks like that's a part of the stamped image. Isn't that lovely? And I am going to probably add some sparkle to that one as well. So I do have this other piece here. Okay, I'm going to use, pardon me, I am going to use the same Mullen Mumbo ink, and I'm going to add some of those blotches as well. Using different parts of the stamp to give that blotched look. So two very different looks with just exactly the same stamp, exactly the same ink, just changing that cardstock colour. So we're now up to adding everything together to make the card, or at least the base of the card. So here we are, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to rub out some of these numbers. Just give me 1 second to the side, because I don't want ink. Oh, I'm getting ink everywhere. So I am going to move some of these elements. Oh dear. Okay, I am going to move all of this off to one side and fold my scrap paper. So this is just A3 paper that I've got some clips on just to protect my work surface, but also because I am a bit of a messy stamper. This is the great thing though, fold it over nice and clean. So bringing back some of our elements in here now. Got the florals, which there is some little ones, and I did do the same technique of adding that extra colour with the dauber with those. The granny apple green leaves, I literally just stamped them. But like I said, that distinctive ink just gives you all those different shades. It's so easy to use. We've got these little die cut elements now as well. And then let's bring in our bases. Like I said, we'll just remove all my little markings on there. I have got a little bit of ink on this one, but that's okay because it's going to be covered. Okay, so let's start with this part of our card. So I'll just unfold it just for ease, bring in my trusty Tombow glue and start gluing down. So here is my larger 6.5 by 13.5. Oops. Don't like to add too much glue, but I do like to have it all over. And this is going to go in the center, like so. My next one, which yes, I have stamping on the back because I used it to stamp out that rays of light stamp set. Oh dear, I've got a little, don't you hate that? Having false nails does not help. Okay, we're going to stick this one on this front section. I hope you can see. No, you can't see that. There we go. Like so. You can, if you have DSP, you want to fill all 3 sections, you can. I'm leaving this one white, but I am bringing in this part, the tent part of my card, and I'm going to add, oops, again, having false nails sometimes it cannot be fun. Okay, almost time for a new glue by the looks of it. Okay, so putting my matting layer down in the Melon Mumbo, and then the Sunray layer down as well. This is the main part of the card that's going to be decorated with some of those elements, and you'll see shortly when I start putting it together. So I'm going to add into here, we go. I'm going to pop this one together first. Might be easier for me to show what I'm doing. So I'm just going to add on the back of this one a little bit of glue to begin with. And I'm going to line it up here on the front. And I'm going to make it not quite in the center. I'm going to have it slightly off to the side, like so. And I'm going to fold it all together. And then I'm going to do the same on here. Just going to add, whoops, sorry, add some to the back, like so, and glue it down, and it will line up perfectly Just give it a second, give it a little rub. It should sit up beautifully. Look at that. Okay, so as I said, when you see it front on, you really don't see this valley in here, but you can decorate that as well. So now we've got this beautiful blank card ready to decorate. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to add my floral element last, I think, because I really do want it to pop like that. But I'm going to bring in some dimensionals because this is the fun part. And I'm going to start with some of these elements here. So I want that to kind of stick off the side, but obviously it's not quite structured enough. See how floppy that is? So I'm going to have to glue it down. And the easiest way I find is just daub some glue in little dots over most of it. Don't want it completely on this one because that's going to hang off. And you know what, we can always wipe it off if we need to. So this is going to sit like so. Okay. Like I said, don't worry about the glue under here. We're going to let it dry. You can always come back in with a bit of extra glue. Doesn't want to stick that one. That's okay. All right. Next is another leaf. So I'm going to add this leaf. Again, a bit of glue on the bottom part because it is going to hang off the edge over here. Okay. Now I'm going to add in my floral. See, I want that sitting there like that, but my floral is going to be, whoops, with a dimensional. So here's a little tip. I double side tape on the back of my small and larger dimensional dots because I lose them all the time. So if they're all in one, it's a slightly bigger thing on my desk. So I don't tend to lose it as easily. Okay, here we go. Some dimensional dots. We want this to be on quite well. So we're going to use quite a few. There's no rules with dimensional dots. You can put as many or as little as you like. They do tend to sag in the mail if you don't put enough. But of course, having some all around the outside sections probably is best. So I'm going to pop this in here. Whichever way, it's not really a big deal. So now you can see how it's starting to pop out. Like so. Another floral element. Another leaf element or two. Okay, oh, they keep getting stuck. All right, so this one I'm going to layer this leaf onto my other leaves. Just a little bit at the bottom, like so. And I think I'll just add it like that. And then this all is going under, I think up here. Like that, tuck it in like that. Okay, and we've got a couple of extra little flowers. Again, these ones I'm going to pop on my stems. One over here. And I'm going to pop one or two on this background. Here, I'm going to put one there and one there. That just links the two sections together really well. Got very sticky hands today. Okay, so that is almost finished. Now for some finishing touches and the sentiment. So I have chosen the happy birthday sentiment from the same stamp set. And let me just grab a piece of white cardstock, scrap cardstock. Here we go. Pop this to the side. And I'm going to actually stamp it in Granny Apple Green because I want to pull in some of those colour elements that I haven't quite finished yet. Pop this here. Let me put my glue back together. Okay, happy birthday. A very bold, simple, clear, easy to stamp element here. Sentiment, sorry. Pop it down. Happy birthday. There it is. Beautiful. Now to cut it out, I'm going to bring in a trimmer to do that. Beautiful straight trimmer. Trim it back just ever so slightly. Easy. Happy birthday. Let me just cut that one off. Perfect. And we're going to put dimensionals on this one as well. Turn it over. I'm going to add them with my finger. They just fit. Look at that. Perfect. Might be easier with my knife after all. One more for the middle. Okay, peel off, stick on. And it wouldn't be one of my cards without a bit of sparkle. So I'm going to pop this over here. Like so. And let's add some bling. So, the side of my camera is my little drawer of bling. Bringing in the iridescent gems and a little bit of gold twine. So happy to see gold and silver twine back in the catalogue. I just love the twine. I don't use gold very often, so I'm trying really hard this month to use some of it up. I use it probably at Christmas more than anything. I know this does not look like me tying a bow, but it actually is. Play around with it a little bit more. This, I find the easiest way for the twine is to make a bow and then add it underneath an element. So that one's twisted, doesn't want to play well, that's okay. And so you can see, it doesn't look like much, but I am going to add it underneath here. And I'm going to do that by grabbing a glue dot. I'm lucky I still have some of the old ones. I find them a bit easier than the new ones have the glue dots on this tape section, and I just find that more difficult, that's all. Oops, here we go. Now, where am I going to add it? I'm going to pop it under here. So my trick is get it on my knife and then slide it underneath like so, and then press down. Hey presto. Can we see that? There's that little gold twine poking out like so. Gorgeous. Okay, let's add in some of these iridescent as well. So my natural go-to would be to add some, upside down, add some in here, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to put them in the middle. I'm going to put them slightly to the side. 1, 2, and then 1 over on a leaf, I think. 3. Up there. And then I'm going to add a couple of bigger ones. We don't tend to use the bigger ones much. And I'm going to pop the really big one so that you've got 2 like that. So that's 5. Almost done. And I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, what else could she add? Easy. Good old wink of Stella. So it's a really funny story actually, because I did not have Wink of Stella for a very long time, and everyone was saying how wonderful it was. You got to get some, and I was like, yeah. And it is hard to see the effect until it is dry and in the sun. My Wink of Stella, I don't know if you can tell, but the end of the brush is a little wonky. Has been since I got it. I think it was just the way it was put together when it was manufactured. And it means that it all comes out in one big glob or not at all. So I'm just adding it to these leaves. Yep, just whack it on. Just keep adding and adding until you see your little shimmer and shine that you want. And I'm going to add it to the green elements. I have ordered a new one. And you won't see it until you see the photos on my blog or on my Instagram. You're not going to really even notice that that's on. Okay, so we are done. Granny Apple Green, Orchid Oasis, Melon Mumbo, Artistically Inked, Ray of Light, and a great Cheats step card. Thanks for joining me, everyone. It's always fun to be a part of these video hops. Please like this video, hit subscribe, share it, pop over to the other videos as well. There's a lot of people that put in some effort and want to inspire you. And fun folds are a great way to step out of your comfort zone when it comes to card making. And as you can see, you don't need a lot of fancy DSP. It doesn't need to be complicated. This is literally probably a really easy but super effective and pretty card that you can make. This is a great one too if you want to do a mail card, you know, in like your, like using the ocean type of stamps, or I know in the annual catalogue there's a great one which is like a fishing set that has a tackle box and everything. You can easily change the dimensions very easily for this to make a bigger card or a smaller card as well. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next month. Bye. Thanks for joining us, everyone. That was great fun. I just wanted to remind everybody at the end as well that don't forget to decorate your envelopes. Now here is our card that we created, and I created an envelope both front and back that mimics the colours and the images that I have used. And that just is a little bit more of a teaser when it arrives in the mail for your recipient, so that they know that you've created something extra special.